The Veltri Empire never took humans seriously. They had arrived with their gleaming starships, their genetic superiority, their centuries of interstellar dominance, and promptly declared Earth a primitive protectorate. To them, humanity was a minor species, barely worthy of acknowledgement, and no one embodied Veltri arrogance more than Ambassador Zeylira Kareth. Towering at nearly 7 feet, with silver-violet skin, razor-edged cheekbones, and eyes that glimmer like cold stars, Zeylira moved through Earth's diplomatic halls like a queen among peasants. She demanded entire sectors of New Geneva clear for convoys, scorned human food as agricultural slop, and once famously called Earth's military a quaint display of fireworks. But the real insult came during the Solar Accord Summit. Before an audience of hundreds, Zeylira smirked at Earth's delegation and said in perfect English, "We tolerate your existence because it amuses us. Your species is aesthetically pleasing, decorative, like flowers in a garden we own." The video went viral in under an hour. Memes of her calling humans flowers flooded the nets. Some laughed, others raged, and one man decided he wouldn't let it go. Hashtag, enter Commander Rhys Calder. Rhys was a decorated Earth Fleet officer, sharp-jawed, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who looked like he'd been carved from battlefield grit. He had lost friends during Veltri, peacekeeping operations in the outer colonies. He'd watched Zeylira dismiss human suffering with a flick of her elegant hand. So when rumors spread that Veltri biology made reproduction complicated, that genetic compatibility with humans was shockingly high, but strictly taboo among their elites, Rhys got an idea. A terrible, reckless, utterly audacious idea. Hashtag the seduction. Zeylira enjoyed toying with humans. She found them amusing, like clever pets trying to impress their betters. So when Commander Rhys began appearing at her diplomatic receptions, offering charming smiles and witty banter, she barely noticed at first. But Rhys was persistent. He complimented her strategic brilliance during trade negotiations. He challenged her opinions on interstellar law with infuriating logic, and when he looked at her, it wasn't with fear or reverence like the others. It was with something bolder. One evening, after too much Veltri wine and a particularly heated debate about colonial governance, Zeylira smirked at him across the balcony of the embassy sky garden. "You're a dangerous man, Commander," she drawled, voice like velvet over steel. "Dangerous?" He leaned casually on the railing. "Just honest. Honesty can kill," she purred. "Maybe I like living on the edge." Their eyes locked. The city lights of New Geneva burned below, and in that charged moment, with alien pheromones thick in the air, the powerful Veltri diplomat decided to amuse herself with this bold human. It was supposed to mean nothing. A game. A fleeting indulgence before she returned to her empire. She had no idea what Rhys truly intended. Hashtag the aftermath. Weeks later, Zeylira stormed into the Earth Diplomatic Council chambers like a thunderhead given flesh. Her hair, normally a shimmering cascade of silver, was a tangled halo around her furious face. Her long ceremonial robes swirled like battle flags. The chamber fell silent. Her gaze locked on Rhys. "You!" she hissed, voice trembling with fury. "What have you done?" Rhys, leaning casually against the table, raised a brow. "Good to see you too, Ambassador. I am pregnant." The words cracked like a whip. "With your offspring." Gasps echoed through the chamber. A human delegate choked on his coffee. Rhys allowed himself the smallest, most infuriatingly smug smile. "Congratulations." Zeylira looked ready to commit murder. Hashtag, why was disaster? Among the Veltri, bloodlines were everything. Their ruling class carefully controlled reproduction through genetic pairings approved by the Hygiene Council. And Zeylira? She wasn't just any diplomat. She was a High Chancellor's niece. A half-human child wasn't merely a scandal. It was political detonation. The kind that could end careers, topple alliances, maybe even spark wars. Zeylira paced the chamber like a caged predator. "Do you have any idea what you've done? My family will disown me. The council will exile me to some barren moon. And the media, by the stars, the media will feast on this for years." Rhys folded his arms, utterly unrepentant. "Maybe you'll think twice before calling humans decorations." Her eyes blazed. This was revenge? He shrugged. "Let's call it diplomacy. A very personal treaty." Hashtag, Zeylira strikes back. For the next month, Zeylira made Rhys's life hell. She crashed his military briefings to demand medical updates. She filed formal complaints about emotional distress. She even tried, unsuccessfully, to have him reassigned to Pluto Command, otherwise known as the Siberia of Space Duty. But the real torment came during the interstellar press conferences. Zeylira was too proud to hide. When journalists swarmed, she stood tall, chin lifted, venomously graceful as cameras flashed. "Ambassador," one reporter shouted, "is it true you're carrying a half-human child?" Her smile was a weapon. "It seems human audacity knows no limits." Another reporter asked, "Do you regret the liaison?" She looked straight at Rhys, who was watching from the sidelines, and said sweetly, "Regret implies the event had significance. It was the lapse in judgment. One I shall correct." Rhys just grinned, because he knew something she didn't. Hashtag the twist. Veltri biology had one more surprise. Hybrid pregnancies were rare, extremely rare. The genetic odds were astronomical. Most cross-species conceptions failed within weeks, but when they succeeded, the offspring were almost always exceptional. Stronger immune systems, enhanced cognitive abilities, sometimes even psionic talents. The Veltri Hygiene Council, despite their outrage, quietly dispatched scientists to study Zeylira's unborn child. Whispers spread through the empire. A hybrid heir of noble blood? A child who might outshine even pure Veltri elites? Suddenly, what had been a scandal was becoming valuable, very valuable, and Zeylira hated it. Hashtag confrontation. She cornered Rhys one night on the embassy balcony, the same place this entire mess had started. This change is nothing, she snapped, though her voice lacked its usual venom. Really? Rhys leaned against the railing again, maddeningly calm. Because it sounds like your people are starting to see things differently. Her hands clenched. They want to parade this child around like some political trophy. My life is no longer my own. Welcome to humanity, Rhys said dryly. Her glare could have frozen suns. You think this is funny? You've ruined me. Or maybe, he said softly, I gave you leverage you never had before. A child the council wants? That makes you untouchable. Zeylira opened her mouth, then closed it, because damn him, he was right. Hashtag the decision. Months passed. The scandal evolved into something stranger. Veltri factions whispered about new bloodlines. Human diplomats used the situation to negotiate better trade terms. And Zeylira? She gave birth aboard a medical cruiser orbiting Earth. When they placed the infant in her arms, a tiny, silver-skinned, violet-eyed girl with faint traces of human features, Zeylira felt something she hadn't expected. Fierce, protective, terrifying love. Rhys visited the next day. She's perfect, he said softly. Zeylira shot him a withering look. Don't think this means I forgive you. Wouldn't dream of it, he said, smiling faintly. But when their daughter's small hand wrapped around Zeylira's finger, the proud ambassador knew life would never be the same. Hashtag epilogue. Power shift. A year later, Ambassador Zeylira Kareth returned to the Veltri capital with her half-human daughter in her arms. The High Gene Council, those ancient, arrogant rulers, had expected scandal. What they got instead was a symbol. A living, breathing union between two species once divided by disdain. And Zeylira, ever the strategist, used it brilliantly. She negotiated from a position of unprecedented power, her daughter's existence forcing the Empire to acknowledge humanity as more than decorations. As for Rhys, he watched from Earth as interstellar channels broadcast Zeylira's speeches, her daughter on her hip, the galaxy hanging on every word. Furious or not, she had turned revenge into revolution. And deep down, Rhys suspected she might even thank him someday. Maybe.